everyone, we're back for another workout of the day. Today is 5 rounds for time. It's called Kittens and it's not as friendly as a kitten would be. So it is 10 alternating dumbbell snatches, 15 box jumps, 20 sit-ups, 25 kettlebell swings, 20 goblet squats, 15 slam balls, and 10 ab rollers. So you're gonna do all of those movements 5 times, time yourself. We're gonna go through all of those movements and the modifications, and then you can get started. Okay, so the first movement is going to be our alternating dumbbell snatch. So for this, we're gonna need a dumbbell, and we can use whatever weight you feel comfortable with. We wanna make sure that we're able to move the weight from the floor to overhead in one smooth movement. So we don't want a stop and go movement. We want to the floor and all the way up. Something to keep in mind is that you really want to engage that core so that you're staying tight the whole time. You want to come down into a squat while keeping that chest up, and you're going to grab that dumbbell off the ground. You're going to come up with your elbow and push out at the top with a straight arm at the top overhead with everything stacked on top of each other. So my arm is stacked on top of my shoulder is stacked on top of my back, my spine, my hips, my legs, and so forth. We're going to use leg momentum to drive up overhead. So this is what it's going to look like with the dumbbell. We're going to come down and we're going to reach up and step overhead. Now see how it was nice and smooth? It was a fast, quick movement. We're going to switch arms and up overhead, right? So we're going to keep switching and going back and forth. So for modifications, you can set up on your box here or something like a bench or something lower, stack some plates. You can start from here. And again, we're going to keep that core engaged. We're going to come down with our knees bent, chest up, and we're going to keep that nice smooth movement up overhead and switching back and forth. Now we can also use a band for this. So we're going to do 10 on each side. If we're going to do the band, we're going to come down again in the squat, keeping our shoulders and our back straight, our chest up, and come up overhead and push overhead with the band. So you'll just switch sides. Okay, so the next movement is going to be a box jump, and I'm so excited because I got the green light that I can do box jumps again, so I can actually show you a proper box jump and not pretend. Okay, so you want to set up your box, or you can set up a bunch of plates and stack them at a comfortable height for yourself. You're going to stand in front of the box pretty close. You're going to come down into a quarter squat, get that jump up, and you're going to land with both feet on top of the box. No cliffhangers hanging off. You want to come up and straight all the way at the top, stand all the way to the top. What you don't want to do is land in a full squat, which I'm not going to do because I'm still a little modified here with some movements. But we don't want to land down into a deep squat. We want to land only in a quarter squat and stand up. The deep squat I see people land in is a very uncomfortable movement, right? You're making it more complicated. You're also making it really hard on your knees and your hips and essentially every other part of your body, right? Because it's going to become kind of weird and loose. So the more tight we can stay and do that jump up and stand all the way up at the top, the better it is going to be to prevent injury and anything else. So another modification would be step ups. So we step our foot fully, completely on the box. We're going to take that leg and step all the way up till it's straight, and then place that other foot on, come down, step all the way up, And again, no cliffhangers. Make sure your foot is totally, completely on the box. Now, if you can also do step ups on plates, lower. You can higher the box. You can, do whatever you need to do to get in the workout. So there's that. Okay, next movement is going to be our sit-ups. So we're gonna come all the way down and back and really squeezing those abs on the way up. We don't want like just loosey-goosey. We really want to engage the core to get every part of the movement in. I think a lot of times people are doing more for their hip flexor muscles than they are doing for their abs when they're doing sit-ups, because they're not really squeezing and using the abs to come up. Essentially, if you're using those muscles to get up, your feet can stay completely on, your heels will stay completely on the ground. If you find yourself like rolling up, it means you're probably not using those core muscles. So modifications to the knees or crunches to the shins there. Okay. Next movement is going to be our kettlebell swing, which we haven't done in a while because I didn't get the green light on these yet, but I did today. So we're putting some kettlebells in here. Okay, so movement. Let's go over it again. We want to be a little bit wider than hip width apart with our feet. We're going to bring our hips back. We're going to bend at the hips, bringing your butt back to like the wall. We want to come back with our hands so that the outside of our wrist is hitting the inside of our thigh when we come back, right? We don't want to be hitting anywhere above that wrist, because when we do that, right, it means we're probably doing one of two things. We're either bending over too much, right? We don't want to do that. Or coming down into a squat, which we don't want to do that either. So we're using the hip drive to send that kettlebell up to where we want, which is about eye height here. So we're going to drive up, we're going to squeeze our butt at the top, and then we're going to come back down, keeping a good tight core the whole time. So this is what it's going to look like with the kettlebell. And literally this is going to be my first kettlebell in over 3 months. Okay, so here we go. This is what it should look like. Oh, and they feel so good. Okay, so if you don't have a kettlebell, but you have a dumbbell, you can use a dumbbell. This is going to be the same movement. You're going to come back and you're going to come up and swing and squeeze that butt at the top, keeping everything nice and tight. If you feel any pain in that lower back, take a look in the mirror while you're doing it, videotape yourself. Chances are you're probably coming back too far or squatting down and rounding your back. You want to make sure everything is tight. Your shoulders are staying nice and tight back. Really pay attention to the movement. If you're not getting the kettlebell up where you want, you really need to engage that hip drive a little bit more, right? This is a hamstrings, glutes, not a arm exercise. So that's what's going to drive it upwards. You can also use a band for this. So what we want to do essentially is we're going to step on the band and we're going to pull the band through behind us. And then we're going to take it with two hands and we're going to do that movement with the band. Okay, so those are those. Goblet squats. So again, I'm a little bit modified with the squats. Can't go deep, but I can go a little deeper than I have been. So yay. Okay, we're going to go about hip width, maybe slightly wider. Toes pointed slightly outward. We're going to keep our core engaged, right? Because we're going to have weight with this one. We want to keep our chest upward. We want to bring our knees out, not forward, not in. We want to bring them out so that we're coming up, straight, and down. And we're going to come down into our squat, keeping everything nice and smooth. Our feet should be flat on the ground the whole time. If you find yourself rolling onto the balls of your feet, right? That means you're probably pointed your toes straight and you're probably coming forward with your knees. And that is where you're going to feel more rocking. So make sure your feet are out, your knees are coming out, and that's going to keep your feet flat on the ground. It also could be a mobility, flexibility thing as well. So that's something to work on and notice. But we want to grab our dumbbell or kettlebell or whatever kind of weight you want to use and hold it and come down into that squat. So modification, you can use a box or bench. You really just want to tap the box or bench with your butt here, and that is to prevent you from really like sitting back and relaxing, because we want to keep everything tight. We don't want to let go when we sit down. That's what most people do. So just a nice tap and stand up, and think about when you stand up, just bringing those knees back and the hips forward, and that's going to keep you from really like doing a rock forward. That's going to really engage what needs to be engaged, which is your legs. Okay. With a band, you can also use a band just to add some resistance, and you can put it over your shoulders and you just come down and like so. Okay. Our slam balls. Okay. So I'm going to show you from the ground, which I haven't been really doing lately because I'm not supposed to go into a deep squat. So I'm going to just be up a little higher than what I want you to be up when I come down to grab the ball. But we're going to be setting ourselves up just like the squat, right? So we want our feet slightly wider than hip width, our toes pointed out, our chest up, our core engaged. We're going to come down and grab the ball on either side, keeping everything upright and straight. The ball should be close into you, not out here. So you're going to bring it straight up and overhead until everything is straight, and then you're going to follow it down and let go about halfway. We don't want to slam the ball from up top like this, right? Because now here comes that lower back pain, because we're loosening. Everything is going to be hinging there, which we don't want. So we want to kind of bring it down, and as we bring it down, it's going to have a slight bounce when it hits the ground, and I mean slight. It's going to be probably about an inch off the ground, and that's where we want to try to catch it before it hits again. So it's going to be a fast, quick movement. If you find yourself not being able to keep good form, don't worry about that fast, quick movement. Just do one at a time, but still follow up and down, get into that squat. Don't try to lean over and pick up the ball. You come down in a squat and pick it up with good form, straight back, tight core. If modification, you can use a bench where you can sit up at a bench, come down and up and slam like so. You can also take your dumbbell here, come up overhead. Be careful not to drop it on top of your head. And you can also take a plate and do plates to overhead. Okay, now our last movement is going to be our ab rollers. So we want to set up with our knees on the floor. Essentially, all that's going to be on the floor as we start to roll forward. We're using our abs to move. So we're moving out until we're about straight, and we're squeezing those abs to come back. So this movement should all be your ab muscles. Modification would be just coming about halfway. You can also do some inchworms, which you can come down, walk your way out, reach out and switch hands like that. Or you can go back to your sit-up or crunches like we discussed. So you're gonna do all of those movements 5 times, and make sure you're timing yourself, make sure you're keeping track of the movements and weights, and revisit the workout and see how much you progressed. All right, good luck.
Can get a bit crazy, have to get my way up 24 hours a day, 'cause I'm hot like